Welcome to the Better Together podcast, where we look for ways we can work together to advance the gospel of Jesus Christ. Today we have with us Miss Mary Anne Oglesby-Sutherly. She's the author of Remember for Me, Life Lessons from Those Living with Dementia. Miss Mary knows a lot about dementia. She has been working, I guess, with the Veranda since 2011. Is that right?
Going on our 12th year.
Ooh, going on her 12th year, many different awards. She was a singer. She still is a singer, but she's done that for many, many years. But also, the Veranda's been recognized by Tennessee Public Radio by many different agencies. Governor Huckabee and many others have pointed out the good work they do. And she's been on the podcast before, a well-received podcast that helped a lot of people. So it's so good to have you with us again.
Thank you. It's good
Ms.
to be here.
Thank you for being here. So we've got a lot of people struggling with memory issues, all kinds of dementia. We've got Alzheimer's. We have Lewy bodies. This will go away, will it not? Will this get better?
I don't think so. Doesn't seem that way. And I was sitting out in the car before I came in here today, and there was a lady that her mom has Lewy body, and she was asking about coming to the Veranda. Lives in Goodlettsville, close to here, but she was at wit's end as to what to do with her mom, and in a different church, not in my church, but still searching for help.
Yeah.
Searching for help. And she's had to quit her job
to take care
of her mom.
So it's not going away.
No, it is not.
You actually write about that in your book. You talk about the data. You talk about the baby boomers aging.
Right.
And there's a statistic in here that just should frighten us all, but also help us get prepared.
Right.
Where it looks like 20% of our population could be struggling with these kinds of issues by 2030.
By 2030, which isn't very long.
It is not. It
It's
is right around the corner. Right around the
Right.
corner. So I'm listening to this podcast today, and I'm a younger person, but I'm looking at my mom or I'm looking at my dad, and I'm noticing some things. They seem like they're slipping a little bit. What do I do?
You know, we all slip.
Yes.
So just because we forget something doesn't necessarily mean that we have a dementia of some kind. However, come with aging as we get older, our brain is old too. So there's normal aging. All of us are going to normal age. You know, I get tickled because people say, I couldn't find my car in the Walmart parking lot when I came out. And I go, but you do know you have a car. There's the difference.
There you go.
There's the difference. When people don't know they have a car in the parking lot and they wander off, there's really big issues.
Mm-hmm.
But for losing your way, you know, hey, that happens I say that because I'm getting there. So I justify it, you know, but it's still true. Everything about us grows old.
Over time.
It does. Over time, we're going to get old.
Right.
Old, period. So, it's one of those diseases that there's so many facets of it that I think it scares people just the word dementia.
Yes. Yeah. And so, I can't find my keys, or, I'm struggling. But it's over a long process, isn't it?
It's a while, you know. I mean, people, it takes probably now 5 years to 6 years to even get a diagnosis of Alzheimer's.
Mm-hmm.
It's that long of a time period. I'll be kind, but it shouldn't take that long.
No, it shouldn't.
It should not take that long. And so that's, I think, where the trouble comes in with our moms and our dads, is that we look at it as an old age disease when in fact it really isn't anymore. But because they are getting older, is it just slowing down,
mm-hmm.
or is it just the beginning of something that we don't want to talk about?
Mm-hmm. And so you would think you could go and have an evaluation, have a physical, do a good mental status exam.
Right.
And they would realize, okay, something's amiss here.
Right.
But it seems like it kind of goes along, and then it just hits people like
Yeah.
this is off.
It really, because I work in the church world, I see that it's sometimes because people have a task to do, and people living with dementia are really good at task oriented. You give them a job, they can do it, especially in early. So Daddy, who's always worked in the church, came up there. His routine, his whole being has been that. And so it takes a while to say, well, no, he got lost on the way there, or he got lost, and how many times did he, so aging parents are probably some of the hardest, because the children that are at home that are watching this have busy lives too.
Yes.
Very busy lives. And so sometimes, as my dad used to say, you can't see the forest for the trees.
Yes.
There you go.
So it's easier to mask on the telephone.
It is.
It's harder.
I'm doing
in
good.
person.
That's social chat.
Yes.
I'm doing good, honey.
Yes.
Whole time you're standing there and it's 12 o'clock and you're still
they're
in
still
your
in their-
pajamas.
yes.
So yeah, it is a chore. It is a chore for children, and it is a terrible place for a child to be.
Yeah. And so you can know they struggle sometimes to remember what they ate.
Right?
They ask
I ate
you.
good.
Yes, I ate good. What did you eat though?
Well, I don't know, but it was good.
It was good.
It was good.
But I think probably a good signal is they keep asking
They
the
keep
same
asking
questions
over and over, or not remembering special days.
Yeah.
When
This
every
is the
day is your
anniversary.
birthday, or it's just small things. Bathing is huge. I did take a bath,
Yes, and you can smell them.
and you can smell, and the husband will be sitting there shaking his head. That's not true. That's not true. But then that makes the wife mad, and then there's this fuss. And then children see their parents fussing that have always loved each other, and it's just like a bomb waiting to go off, and it will explode.
So what can the children do as they see it? They can sometimes feel it. We want to deny it,
Right.
but it's there, and if nothing else, often the other parent.
I see the other parent. I see the husband that's loved his wife for 60 years. The last thing he wants to do is tag her with something that's going to take her away from him. You and I both know that it becomes disastrous sometimes, and so love, that kind of love I see, is that we don't see it in a younger generation. We were raised different. We were raised different. We were raised to be one way and to take care of ourselves, be on our own, be independent, and we're going to stay that way. But those couples, our parents, it's been love from the get-go. And there's been this bond there. And especially in churches, it's been, I've always taken care of my wife, or my wife, I've always taken care of him. I've always cooked his meals. I want to cook those meals. I want to be that person for him that I know God wants me to be. And that's where I see the biggest issue sometimes, is that couples in churches are kind of left out of the mainstream. And so where do they go? Where do they go to find answers, faith-based answers? Because you can get some answers in other places. You might not like them, but as a people of faith, we have to figure out as Christians that there is a bad side to life, and we need to be on the forefront. I've always said this: the church needs to be on the forefront of helping families with this disease than the last ones to know what's going on.
Absolutely. So parents are maybe struggling a bit, and then you've got children looking into this situation.
Right.
What you're saying is really we as the church need to step up.
We do.
And help them in certain ways.
We need to help find we can find the answers for many things for the youth to do. Go here, here's this. But I really feel like I got an email, your email last night, and when I read it, I had a friend, she was talking to me on the phone, and I said, oh my gosh, here's a pastor that called me and said the things that you said about we need to do better at this.
Mm-hmm.
And that's been what God has laid on my heart for 2024. We have to be better at this because I've seen some horrible things in 2023.
Yeah.
Horrible things. And every one of them are in church. And to be honest, none of them really know their pastor. They don't, because they have to be out of the building. So to me, underneath that steeple, there's a big circle of people that are drowning.
Right.
Drowning. And that's our mamas, our daddies. That's our husbands. That's our wives. So I think that in order to help them, the church needs some answers.
Very good. Very good. So if I'm a son or daughter trying to help, I'm thinking, what can the church do?
Right.
If I have a spouse that's struggling with this, I want to think about the church.
Right.
And then the church, we'll talk about that a little bit more later.
Right.
Needs to think about this population. And be directly
And we should feel
involved.
free to go. We want our families in the church to feel, I mean, if we have cancer, what's the first thing?
Pray for so-and-so.
Pray for so-and-so. It's easy, but with dementia, because it's such a social disease and it has such bizarre behaviors that it puts us in an uncomfortable mode. And it's really hard. It's really hard for a husband to come and say, my wife just took off down the street without any clothes on. Mama would never do that. You know her. She's a godly woman. She would, and it has nothing to do with the Lord. It has everything to do with the disease.
And so, whether it be a sibling or be a spouse, to get past the stigma a little bit.
Yes.
They would have never said anything
exactly.
like that. Never done anything like that.
That's the funniest thing to me. Not funny. It's funny in a sad way because the right frontal temporal, as you know, is that place that stores music.
Yes.
It is the one thing that we're so proud of as a church is that, hey, they can still sing the old rugged cross. Praise the Lord. And it brings great, great joy to those. It's also the place that has rhythm, so they can,
Yeah.
But forbidden words are stored there too.
Yeah.
And I think it's because, now this is me talking, it isn't a language. We know a cuss word is a cuss word.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's profanity. Yeah. We've been taught that our whole life, but it's stored in a different place. It's not stored in the left lobe, which has language. It's not stored there. And so when they go to say, oh, sugar, sugar's not there anymore. They don't even realize there's a difference between sugar and sweet and low.
Yeah.
But that other word comes out, and they're just frustrated, and they have no words. And so that is probably one of the biggest things about Christianity and our loved ones is the potty mouth.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a shock.
It's a shock. Yeah. And it rightly so.
Yeah.
I'm not saying there's anything not shocking about it because it is. It's funny, though, because it's a proven fact that your generation, if we sat here and talked about a word that we never use because we think it's the grandmother of all ugly words, the younger generation that has dementia, they use that word all the time. It's stored. It's a expression. You're mad when you say it.
Yeah.
Most of the times it has an emotion attached to it.
Yeah.
So when you're really upset. So it is that place. The church should be a refuge. I've said it for over and over. It's a refuge for everything else we do. And for families, for your mama, your daddy, heck, for you.
Yeah.
Because I love your wife. She's just as funny and I think she's wonderful.
Yeah.
I just love her. But she's going to struggle because you'll be the man she doesn't know.
Right. Absolutely.
And it's hard.
Yeah. So first off, thinking you're listening to this, you've got a parent struggling.
Yeah.
They're going to be different, but
They're different.
Also want to go and embrace the church.
Right.
You've got a spouse. You're embracing people within the church, trying to use that, and we'll talk in a future podcast about specifics the church can do.
Right.
But we're encouraging you to go on the offense and pastor help us, or Sunday school class, life group help us.
Exactly.
Let's do those things too. Now, let's say I'm the person Okay. I'm the person that's starting to struggle a bit.
Right.
Which we talk about this, there are things worse than dying.
Right.
And this is one of the things people talk about.
Yes.
So what can I do? And when in my moments of clarity, when I know it's me,
Right.
what can I do?
It's really hard to admit to a disease. You know that. You've been in practice. It's hard to admit that you're going to die. And I think that's one of the biggest things is there's such a death sentence attached. You do not, God can heal anybody. I'm not saying that. But the disease itself is an end-of-life disease.
Yeah.
But it started when you were 40. So it's just been churning along, working along, and then all of a sudden there it is. But it's been there a while.
Yeah.
So I think for an individual, it's to make those plans now. You know, I'm doing some doula work, dementia doula work, and that's what I tell everybody. Look, if your mother has Alzheimer's and her sister had Alzheimer's, then you need to sit down if you're the daughter and say, I need a plan.
Yes.
I need a plan. Yeah. Things aren't looking so hot for me.
Right.
You know, no, I'm not speaking negative.
Right.
But it's just, you know, your mother's diabetic. It's the same thing.
Right.
It runs in your family. Not so much that it runs in the family, but there is a correlation. There's lots of families. I have one now. I mean, it's like the entire family is gone except one person. And so I think that we as individuals need to understand that we have to prepare for what could happen. I mean, they even now have end-of-life documents like power of attorneys and things like that, DNRs that are strictly for dementia. Because the questions that you ask yourself are totally different with dementia than cancer.
Yeah.
And so as an individual, you need to sit down and really have a heart-to-heart with the Lord and say, how do I want my life to look at the end? What does that look like?
That's good. So you can, you kind of get a sense.
Yeah.
And there's all kinds of things. We have testing today.
Yeah.
And so there's people that'll do that. And
right.
They set up a regimen of exercise.
And exercise
nutrition.
Is great for the brain.
Yes. And
it's wonderful for the brain. Fresh air is great for the brain. Socialization, which goes back to church.
It does. It does. But eventually it's coming.
It's coming.
And so you even talk about that some in this book, Remember For Me,
right?
Where you've got other people in your life that are going to do that.
Right.
And then when we finally come down to it, it's really a kind of a Psalm 46. God's going to be my refuge. God's going to be my strength.
I've adopted this. He is able for 2024. And I will tell you, I had a heart attack back in March. And so the first thing I thought about, Dr. Moody, was my brain. Oh, I got to protect my brain. And we have to do that.
Yes.
It's imperative. The younger generation has to protect their brain. And so I'm protecting my brain, and they're calling me crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, they were not nice to me sometimes. And I'm going, I know what heart-lung machine does to the brain.
Right.
I don't want to do that if I don't have to. So let's don't start with bypass. Let's start down here. And God was merciful to me. I walked out of there with not even a stent, but I've had to accept that there are things I can and cannot do anymore. And so to protect my brain, I stood up for myself. And here's the funny part. You know how they give you your records and you can look at them now? Well, they need to be careful what they say.
Yeah.
Because it's written down there.
Right.
So I'm sitting there and I'm looking to see what my lab work looked like. And I looked down, and the first thing was an MIA. The second was hyperlipidemia, and the third one was dementia. They had placed me with dementia. They had put me down as having dementia. I freaked out.
Yeah.
Not because I thought it, but because I saw it.
Right.
And how easy it was to advocate for yourself in a world that won't listen to you. Because I told them, I said, I am not afraid to die. They were thinking I was afraid to die. I said, but I'm not afraid to die. I'm going to heaven. So that's not my concern. My concern is I don't want to end up like the people that I care for reasons that you and I both know, which would be your brain, right. The medication, being put to sleep, all those things. And so I'm thankful and grateful, but as a younger person going in, you got to speak for yourself. You have to be your own best advocate.
You nailed it there. And so
no one else is going to do it for you.
They're not. And so whether you be a spouse, whether you be
Exactly.
you're thinking about your parents,
right?
You really have to, in most hospitals today have a hospitalist.
Yes. And they don't know you from Adam.
They don't. But they're supposed to look at the whole picture. But you're going to have to look at your whole picture.
Exactly.
There's no one really doing that.
No, and you've got to say, this is who I am. And in relationship, in the next, when we talk about the other, relationship care is it. Yeah. It's everything we do is my relationship. I wouldn't be here if you and I didn't have a relationship.
Yeah.
It is what it is, and we have to figure out how to keep a relationship between a group of people that are leaving the church faster than they're coming in, and even for our age. I wanted them to know who I was.
Yes, that's good.
And we have to do that.
We do
have to do it.
Well, thank you for the good work you do at the Veranda.
Thank you.
And thank you for just the wonderful ministry, and thank you for listening. You all that are listening, I want you to listen to another podcast. Be on the lookout for one where we talk about the role of the church and dealing with this grace tsunami that's coming our way. But in the meantime, I want to encourage you to look up Veranda Ministries. And so you can just simply go to verandaministries.org, look at the ministry there that Miss Marianne engages in. And if you happen to be in the Nashville area, the last Monday of November every year, they have always this special Christmas to remember. You don't want to miss it.
It was a great one this year.
It was a great one this year. It's a great one every year. Great musicians, great singers. Miss Marianne's a great singer as well. A good way to support the Veranda Ministry. So come and join that if you can. So thank you for joining us today on the Better Together podcast.